born from. We had a lot of marathons across the country with MISA when we were doing a lot of public consultations, preparing for various pieces of legislation, and I remember very well how we used to engage. And we again went on to engage strongly with MISA when we were in, having said this generally. I now want to try and touch on the first part of what I was asked initially to talk about. I was asked to talk about something very difficult for a government official to be asked to talk about, but which I will talk about like a journalist. It is journalism under surveillance. Is it under surveillance? Is journalism under surveillance? Okay. Government this side is saying no. But practitioners this side, they have not said anything, but their eyes are telling me they are saying yes. We begin by highlighting reported media surveillance cases to put the discussion into perspective. To notice that one cannot deny the existence of media surveillance, but the tricky part of that is that a minister of government representing government is expected to talk about this, yet governments and state actors are usually accused of this type of surveillance. Why did you put me under such spotlight? Okay. I think it is prudent, therefore, that we focus on challenges faced by journalists and how they can protect themselves from such surveillance. Number one, according to media reports, particularly a report by Forbidden Stories, at least 180 journalists have been selected for surveillance by a certain open source spyware. And the spyware can be installed remotely on a smartphone without requiring any action from the owner. Once installed, it allows clients to take complete control of the device. The company that developed the spyware has defended the technology by indicating that it only collects data from the mobile devices of specific individuals suspected to be involved in serious crime and terror. However, a leak revealed that the spyware had been used on journalists' phones in 21 countries. Is it alarming? Number two, according to Reporters Without Boundaries, or Reporters Without Borders in Germany, surveillance has a negative effect on journalism as sources become unwilling to talk, and there is erosion of trust in the media in general. And people who might be key whistleblowers may hesitate to speak out, and the organizations highlight that there are some 230 companies worldwide that develop spyware and internet traffic monitoring products that may be used by governments to violate human rights and freedoms of information. A number of these firms are in the European Union. And the source is Journalism Under Surveillance, Digital Security. Number three, according to Joel Simon, Executive Director of the Committee to Protect Journalists, can I quote? He says, journalists are being imprisoned in Turkey, while in Venezuela the media has been brought under government control. And in Syria, dozens of journalists have been killed and threatened to silence with torture. The global spread of the internet was originally expected to usher in the age of participation and democracy. Yet free speech is in a crisis. It is not just free speech that's under attack, but journalists too. Close quote. So I'm highlighting to you that yes, journalism under surveillance in this day and age of everything that we do being digital, we can therefore be careless to the extent of not admitting that there are such things taking place. Maybe the question can be when. Challenges in Africa and Zimbabwe. From the above scenarios, it is apparent that journalists have been the subject of surveillance by state intelligence agencies in a number of countries. From the above, it also has been demonstrated that surveillance of journalists affect their work, and sources tend to lose trust in journalists and journalism itself. And this affects them to the extent that journalists themselves end up not having the freedom to do their work due to fear of surveillance. While countering spyware technology may be simple for journalists in the developed world, it is not necessarily the case in developing countries due to the following reasons. Number one, lack of resources. Journalists in developing countries do not have financial and technical resources to counter spyware, as this requires one to install expensive software on their mobile phones or their computers. Number two, sharing of computers. Due to shortage of resources, some journalists in developing countries are forced to share computers in newsrooms. And I know this very well. It's still happening as it was happening then when we were doing the same job. Shared computers are more prone to installation of the spyware, as one of the users may actually install such software without knowledge of the other pool users. Yeah. Number three, use of internet cafes. Although we don't use internet cafes as much as we used to a few years ago here, but because of lack of resources to enable journalists to have private internet access, some journalists in developing countries, particularly freelance journalists, use internet cafes to write their stories. Computers in internet cafes are more prone to hacking, hence more exposing journalists to surveillance.